Here we are at beautiful Francis Tavern, named after my grandmother, Mary Francis. That's not true. Francis Tavern is kind of controversial. A lot of historians. This is number one. This is not the original, obviously, right? And a lot of historians debate that it's really not accurate to the way that it used to look like. But regardless, this is what we've got, and thank God we have something here instead of, you know, a huge skyscraper, which would have been really disastrous. At least we got something, and it is pretty historic. If you go inside, you can see where George Washington had his farewell dinner, and they reconstructed the place to make it look like you're in the 1700s. So it is pretty nice, Francis Tavern. They actually have drinks in there and food, so that's an added perk. But we're gonna get serious, down to business, historically here, okay? We're gonna go to my favorite guy in the world, George Washington. I really feel like I have some sort of connection to George Washington, like I'm a reincarnation of his cousin, or like, I don't know, some sort of family tree, right? Because I just have this, like, when I was in first grade and I first found out about George Washington, I just like jumped up in joy because number one, his name is incredible, George Washington, and it's everywhere, so he's clearly an amazing guy. Number two, he has wooden teeth, and nobody has that. Number three, he is a hero. And number four, he's pretty down to earth to be a hero. So I am pretty sure that George Washington is one of the greatest people on the planet dead today. And I feel like he deserves to tell his story through me. So I'm going to tell you what happened. So at the end of the American Revolution, here we are. We're going to bring you back on the time machine to 1783. And something really interesting happens. Now, he just defeated the enemy, the Brits, and he's regarded as an incredible hero. You know, he is like the martyr of America. And oddly enough, people loved him so much that they wanted to make him king. Now, that's pretty dumb. We just fought against a monarchy, and here you want to make this guy king. Now, I love George Washington, but I would have been the first one to stand up and say, okay, this guy's amazing, but let's stay away from that thing on your head for a little while. Let's like recover and move on. And that's exactly what he wanted to do, which is why I love him even more, because he kept his foot on the ground and he didn't take advantage of this. You guys can feel free to pass by. Welcome to New York. And yes, he could have I mean, if he were to be, I don't want to get political, right? I don't want, maybe I shouldn't name any names, but maybe if he were Mitt Romney, he would have jumped on that horse and been like, yes, crown me, I am king, everybody loves me, let's do this. But he was so down to earth that he said, no, fellow Americans, I will not be king. I want to be a farmer in old Virginia, sitting on my porch, drinking some whiskey. And that's exactly who this man was, with my wooden teeth. So he refused to be king. I've said that a million times. But not only that, he was tired. I mean, the man had just like fought against the greatest British army, and he had done enough. And so he decides that this is it for him. This is the end of the road, and I'm gonna come over to Francis Tavern, and we're gonna have a farewell dinner with his men. And so they sit, and he has this emotional goodbye. He's sipping some wine and eating some hamburgers. Not hamburgers. But he's sitting there enjoying his time with his fellow people that, if you think about it, you know, that fellowship between him as commander and his army, the men that survived all this, and they lost people, and they bonded, and they fought, and through victory and distress, good times and bad times, they stuck together, and here they are sitting one last time, and he raises up his glass and he says, my fellow men, I now take leave of you. That's exactly what he sounded like. I studied his voice. My fellow men, I now take leave of you. And that was his goodbye, and all the strong men started crying like little boys, you know. It was really, really emotional, sad. And then he got on a carriage and then eventually some sort of a ship or whatever, boat, ferry, onto the beautiful state of New Jersey. And that was it for him. Or so he thought, because 6 years later, man, did he know he'd be back in New York, being inaugurated as the nation's first president, right there at Federal Hall. We're going to see a huge statue of George Washington. It's beautiful. And yes, Francis Tavern, Washington, my favorite person.